Welcome back to This Week in Fantasy. I'm joined again by two amazing guests, quite possibly the best person in the league, as well as a solid 2-1 team. We have mathematically the highest win percentage team-wise we could have on the show this week with the 2-3-0 teams and one of the powerful 2-1 teams. And they're both from the Division of Death. We have Jaxon and Sam. Jaxon, introduce yourself.
Hello, it is I, the Grinder.
And Jaxon, of course, has a YouTube channel of his own where he does sports content. Link will be in the description. Sam, the man who is relatively new and a voice probably a lot of people in this league have never heard. Who is you, playa?
Hi, my name is Sam. I guess this is my second year in the league and relatively new to fantasy football as a whole as well. Got introduced through Weston, and I'm excited to be here today.
Excellent. So as always, we are going to jump into last week's matchups. But right before we do that, we got to hit up the power rankings because Weston writes them out, and he writes out more and more every week, and I love it. I love waking up and reading his little witticisms about certain people in the league and about how I just won because that's all I know right now is winning. Alrighty, so I will summarize this. So Jaxon takes the top spot. Gruden's Grinders takes the number one spot, while Stephen A. Race falls all the way down to number 9. Good old Spencer there. Stephen A. Race may need to focus on this year instead of all those playoff appearances in the past. New Guys, who is our guest this week, Sam, makes a case for a top tier team, and he moves up to number 4 in the rankings. And sources say that the new guy has guaranteed a better record than Stephen A. Race. Now, at the end of that paragraph, I've got to pause and ask, Sam, are you this source?
I can neither confirm nor deny that I ever have expressed to Weston that I would for sure, definitely, without a doubt, have a better team than Spencer this year.
You're making me look like the New York Times here, Sam. It's not good. I wanted to
Hey,
hear some gusto. Like, yeah, Spencer's easy. It's a shame that I can't play him 4 times instead of just twice.
well, sometimes I gotta keep it quiet or less he'll come after me, but I'm pretty confident the rest of the season.
Alrighty.
Not worried about him.
Ooh, he's not worried. We got no fried in Mahomes. Anyone predict Calvin Ridley breaking out like he did? I sure as hell didn't. Of course not, and the sure as hell didn't was me because I've never heard Weston say hell or anything close to it. Oh wait, no fried. You dog. Ridley leads No Fried to a 14-point victory, keeping him at number 3 in the power rankings. Mahomes falls a spot, but Patrick Mahomes is still taking names and moving up, which is a very PG way to say he's obliterating defenses and making them look bad without throwing any picks. Jaxon, what do you think about Mahomes' opening this season and how he's been in the first 3 games?
Well, going into the draft, I talked about maybe drafting a pretty good quarterback and then drafting Mahomes as like an option if he does do this, because I saw that this might have happened. So, I mean, but as him on the early season, what I keep telling Christian is that the same thing that happened last year is going to happen again this year, where they're going to, start to cruise off to a good start, and then teams will start to figure them out. I really don't think that they've played that many good teams yet. I don't think the Steelers were really that great. They were off to a 21-0 deficit before that game really even started. So I just want to see what they do in the next coming weeks. And I've noticed that their offense goes through spells where they get really cold. Like this last week against the 49ers, they scored like 3 points. So I don't think it's going to last all year, but it's a great story to start the year.
That's an interesting take. To keep up with this absolutely torrid pace, I think, would be ridiculous. Even the biggest Mahomes fans who went to Tech or are going to Tech, for him to literally, 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, and then always playing very clean, no interceptions, would even the biggest, most hardcore Tech fan say that that was going to happen? I don't know. I might have to have a hardcore Tech guy on in the future if Mahomes keeps up like he's doing. But Sam, what do you think? Is Mahomes going to keep up this ridiculous pace or anything close to it?
I wouldn't be surprised if he did, to be honest with you. I thought Mahomes was really talented coming out of college. I mean, he put up some just bonkers numbers at Tech, but I thought part of that was just their system. But I think he's in a really good system in Kansas City. He's got a lot of weapons around him, so that's a very dynamic offense. I think it's pretty deep receiving corridors between Tyreek Hill and Watkins. So I don't think he'll keep up the 3-4 touchdowns a game and no picks, but I think he's going to be really good the rest of the year.
I'm really ready for him to face some challenge. I want to see how he comes out with adversity. He hasn't had any adversity this year. One thing that does scare me about him is he's making it look so easy. When he was at Tech, it was so hard. He had no talent around him other than maybe a couple of good wide receivers. I remember him scrambling everywhere. Like, watching him was just fun to watch, him at Tech. And so now he has actually stars around him, people that are the same level as him, and it's kind of scary how good of a team they've been these first couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. They've been just on a tear, and his O-line at Tech was just not there half the times. So they're gonna be. I'm excited to watch them the rest of the way out. I'd love to see him in a fourth quarter late though, with the game on the line. I think it's gotta be some really entertaining football.
Guys, I was looking at the Browns schedule and I was looking at the Chiefs schedule, and we're going to have a Mahomes versus Mayfield rematch in early November. Personally, this is one of the most exciting games in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to that probably more than any other game this year so far.
Speaking about this week, I'm excited about the Chiefs Broncos game. It's in Denver. Denver usually plays a lot better at home than they do on the road. I'm actually excited to see what happens on Monday night.
I agree. I think that'll be a great game. But moving on, the matchups of the week. Although we do have to wrap up what Weston said before we get to the matchups. Talking about me versus Seagouch, we're going into Monday night. I was down 3.5 points with Smith-Schuster left. Breeze and Ryan cancel each other out with massive 40-point games, and Juju gets enough on Monday night for Oy Vey to stay undefeated. Other different sources have claimed that Oy Vey has the division in the bag, and that Oy Vey is even considering resting stars in the next few weeks for the playoff push. I love Weston. He's such a great guy, and his G-rated humor really puts a smile on my face, especially when I'm at work and it's early in the morning and I'm miserable and I open up the fantasy football to see how my team did, and Weston's written out these rankings. So we want to get into the matchups quickly of last week. So the matchups of the week: Oy Vey versus New Guys. This is part of why I chose to have Sam on this week, because both of us are doing well. I, of course, am undefeated, and Sam is right there with the very scary team, second place in his division behind Jaxon. So we will, of course, jump into that. But Bing Bong versus Johnny Football, two mid-range teams, Cameron and Weston. Cameron known for falling off when the bye weeks hit. So let's jump right into the matchups of last week. Let's start off with the Anomaly versus One Johnny Football, please, because I think, frankly, it was the most boring. A team that and by the way, you can scroll down to simple box score to look at it the way that I look at it in the videos. It's to the right of recap and to the left of full box score. So like I was saying, I was a person who touted Lily as a very consistent team, and she's put up 2 really awful weeks. And quite frankly, this game was very boring. Anytime someone scores less than 50 before bye weeks hit, that's a bad sign. Sam, what did you think of this game?
I mean, I was really surprised. I mean, historically, Weston, in every league I've ever played with Weston or known, Weston's teams have always been really solid. And I think this year he has just had some bad luck and didn't draft extremely well. Looking at the scores, I mean, I think this is the year the Pats finally come back to earth, and maybe Brady starts thinking about retirement. He didn't have a good game. The Cardinals have been very not good. I think Fitzgerald has suffered from a lackluster quarterback position.
Yeah.
And then the Raiders, I really thought the Raiders would be a little better this year, but they've underperformed a lot. So looks like Lily had a lot of busts. Fitzgerald 0.9, Cooper 1.7, Ingram 1.9.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some guys you got to get 10, 12 points from to stand a chance, and it just didn't happen.
So whenever you talk about the Pats falling off, do you mean they're going to lose the division to the Jets? Are they going to go 8-8, or do you mean they're just going to go 10-6?
I think we're going to see closer to 8-8. I'm really excited to see the Dolphins Pats game this weekend. I think the Dolphins are 3-0 and on
Yep.
top of that division right now. Tannehill's playing well off the injury, and he's my boy. He went to A&M, and no, I'm really excited to see if the Dolphins can take the next step and beat the Pats and maybe take a stronger hold in that division. But
Honestly, sounds like a lot of smoke. And the Patriots are going to be fine. They're going to be 10-6. They're going to have a bye in the playoffs. They always do this in September. They always look bad. Now I will say they look worse this year than they've done in the past. But think about Vegas right now. Everybody's putting their money on the Chiefs with the way the Chiefs are playing, and more people are getting away from the Patriots. Exactly what Vegas wants. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I sort of agree with Jackson a little bit here, considering the fact that I'm of the opinion the Pats are going to win at least 10 games. I don't think they're going to hit 13, of course, but I'm thinking 10, 11 games. Brady's going to do his thing. They're going to get Edelman back. The defense is going to keep being bad, but the offense is going to recover. But to me, it is interesting to note that the Dolphins are in fact 3-0. Tannehill, to me, looks like a better version of Alex Smith, and he's really doing it with no weapons. He really lost a lot of what he was working with, and that Drake guy, he's been okay, but I don't think he's a world beater. And the Dolphins are sort of doing it with defense, and they're not really making it look good, I don't think. But as far as not looking good, the Dolphins in this game have that in common. But personally, I think the Pats will be fine. They might struggle a little bit because of defense, but I'm not really too worried about them. So let's talk about Jackson's crushing victory over old Clap 4, the commish. Jackson puts up 111, a real solid showing, and Clap 4 puts up 84. Jackson, this is your team. Take it away. Tell me about this.
I'm really excited about this team this year. Obviously, my team has kind of a little bit of an extra edge with Connor on it because someone I didn't have to draft, and I'm sure everybody's very upset about Connor, and they're all can't wait till Connor's out of my lineup late in the year, and they all are saying that whenever Connor's gone, this team isn't going to be anything. But I'm putting up numbers across the board, and I do know Connor's going to be gone, so I'm constantly watching that waiver wire looking for that next guy, so don't worry about me. I'm really actually impressed with my wide receivers so far. Devontae Adams has been able to go up against other top receivers. This week, DeAndre Hopkins. Last week, Antonio Brown, and score more points than them. And that's exactly why I drafted him, is because I knew he could play with those type of guys. So, I don't know. I'm really happy about my team. My tight end situation is very weak. I dropped Burton after a bad week 1, and I rode the hype train to Disley for now. And I got Eifert coming up next week with the AJ Green injury. I like Alex Collins as my flex. Something I realize is not anybody in this league has 3 running backs in their lineup week to week. And I noticed last year I want 3 running backs in my lineup. They touch the ball a lot more. Got one of the best kickers in the league, Justin Tucker. He hits from 50 like it's nothing. And my defense situation is a little bit of we're playing a bad offense every week because I don't really have a good defense. So tied into and defense is kind of weak for me. And I got Big Ben on the bench. Big Ben's starting this week, though, with Newton on the bye. Big Ben really made me happy with his week 2 performance. He might get added at the end of the year if we're on a Super Bowl run just so he can be part of the Super Bowl team.
Justin Tucker has a hell of a leg. He's a UT guy. I saw a stat while I was watching football the other day, something along the lines of since 2015 or 2016, recently within the last few years, Devontae Adams has had the most touchdown catches. And I didn't really know that, but then you look at the stats and it's actually on the Packers, even though they spread it around, Adams is that dude.
Yeah, that's why they were able to get rid of Jordy Nelson this last summer like it was nothing, because Adams has became that dude.
Yeah, and Jordy.
And I didn't get to talk about old Gurley, but Gurley's the big key.
The linchpin.
Yeah, he keeps everything together. My wide receiver position too, I'm kind of perplexed because I'm I like how Robert Woods played last week, but I don't really trust Robert Woods. Like I like Marvin Jones, but at the same time, Marvin Jones is having a fight with Galladay and Tate for targets now, so he's even less of an appealing option at wide receiver.
I agree. And I think that we should talk about Clap for his team. We should briefly touch on it because, my God, it looks like a disaster at the moment. He's completely relying on the Deshaun Watson-Hopkins combo. And I don't know how you guys feel about Watson. I don't know if you think he's going to recover, but at the moment it doesn't look great. I think Allen Robinson has been lackluster. And if you look at his bench, he got Jimmy G pretty early who blew his knee out. Cole Beasley's been dog shit. Shady McCoy's done nothing. I just don't think it's going to be a good year for Clap for.
I think a lot of it was his draft position. He got put in a position where he had a late one, so he went for Hopkins. And then that second round, those backs are gone, and you kind of need to take a back. And he got stuck with McCoy. And now McCoy's not even playing, so he doesn't even have a number one back. Crowell did great last week, and Crowell's done good in another week. Wilkins is a share time back who he's just kind of had to throw in there because of the McCoy injury. He's really reeling at running back, I would say. And the Watkins Hopkins combo has not panned out. Like Watkins is throwing touchdowns from time to time, but Hopkins isn't on the receiving end of them. And he's put up solid numbers, but he's not getting that TD. And that's what you drafted him for, to get those, 17, 18. You didn't draft him to get 8-point performances, Yeah. And Allen Robinson, he's projected as a guy that is a top tier wide receiver. That you look at ESPN magazine, he's number 10 in it. He's a bust. He doesn't have a quarterback to throw to him. Keelan Cole had a good week, I think 2 weeks ago or last week, and then he shit the bed this week. So I don't know, just not a lot of like people on his team that can just skyrocket and get tons of points. Guys that are solid players that didn't play solid this week.
Yeah, Sam, this is a guy, Clap for Bacon, who's in your division obviously as well. Do you think he's going to finish last?
I mean, let me look real
It's
quick.
in a tough division, dude.
Yeah, I between me, Spencer, and Jackson. Yeah, I really don't see a way he doesn't finish last.
I really like what you said last week, I think with Ben, or maybe it was the week before that, but like he's like old school and he's not with like these new guys in his league. Like he's facing 3 guys that are trying every single week. And I don't know. I know he's older. He's probably working or doing stuff with his family and stuff. Maybe he's not, into this fantasy football as much as we are. And his draft, is a little bit outdated compared to how we draft. And I think that speaks to this year, and I think that it will continue to speak throughout the year.
The commish historically has always drafted weird. Obviously, I've seen a lot of his drafts, and I've always when I say weird, I'm not just trying to be nice and like use a different word for bad. I actually mean weird. He would do these sort of bizarre picks and like these weird strategies that were really uncommon. And like look at this year. Reaches for Watson, couples him with Hopkins, but then takes Jimmy G. It's and with Jimmy G with no knee right now, it's sort of like you can hindsight 2020 and like, well, that was a stupid pick, but the fact that Watson was looking sort of shaky, maybe Jimmy G was a good backup, but overall, this team to me kind of looks like Swiss cheese. There's just so many holes in it. I'm not really all that interested. You know what I mean? Especially in such a tough division.
To me, Deshaun Watson, like speaking about Deshaun, yeah, I agree with you on that. To me, though, Deshaun Watson, like I don't know if you watched the game last week, but he had multiple opportunities. He threw a pick in the red zone. Lamar Miller fumbled in the red zone. Like that was a winnable game, and he could have put up gaudy numbers last week with the amount of times he was in. Like they pushed the ball. He kicked 3 field goals in the first half. They have played so bad in the first half, and they've played so much better in the second half in all 3 of their games. Like it's ridiculous. They just don't show up.
It's interesting to me how many Texans fans blame injuries, and then the team's pretty healthy and they still start off terrible. It's like,
I had 3 sacks last week and they still got shredded on the back end.
But you're losing to the Giants. Like, what's sad is the New York team comes down to Texas and comes away with 2 wins because both the teams in Texas are so terrible. That's just
Dallas won.
That's awful. Oh yeah, I'm retarded. I'm so stupid. In my head, Dallas is so bad they couldn't have beaten anyone.
Yeah, I questioned myself for a minute. I was like, wait, did Dallas win last week?
Yeah, that's crazy. In my head, yeah. That week 3 in Dallas game against Seattle was just fucking brutal. It was
Dude, I
so
was at a bar trying to watch that game. Holy, I couldn't, dude. That was just sad.
whenever the pass interference happened in the end zone, it looked like the Cowboys never recovered.
I got some good Cowboy stats for you. Dak Prescott has only completed one pass over 20 yards this season.
Oof.
One.
Doesn't surprise me. Who is he
One.
throwing to?
I mean, they have no deep threat. There's absolute no deep threat. Like at least when you had Des Bryant, like we all feel the same about Des Bryant. He's a waste. But at least they prepared for him every week, and like you could send him deep and like open up the running game or open up these other guys. But now they can just put 8 in the box and they're blitzing them, and they love to do that play action. And then when you're blitzed, they don't have enough time to do anything.
I
They
agree.
need to
Yeah.
replace the coaching staff, and they need to get the Mike White train going. Mike White, the
Mike
third
White!
stringer. It's time for Mike White. It's time. The Western Kentucky rookie. Let's get it.
Jason Garrett is truly awful. I despise his play calling. And in my opinion, 2016 and before, Des Bryant had talent and he was a legitimate threat. But his last year, he was horrific. He led the league in drops. He was a disaster. He did the thing where he still thought he was top tier and demanded the ball. And every time the ball was thrown his way, he would screw it up. And on top of that, when Des doesn't perform, Cole Beasley doesn't perform because all of Cole Beasley's production is really predicated off of Dez doing well. And then Dak also lost Witten. So he doesn't even have
Yeah.
his little safety blanket. So of course Dak is struggling and looks terrible. I don't even think it's Dak's fault really.
I don't either. I don't think Dak has not made any like bad turnovers, like throwing stuff in the bad in the red zone. Like it'll just be like they'll come out there and the drive will start and it's either a 3 and out or it's a drive and they're scoring
Yeah.
or it's a 3 and out. Like, and another thing I'll say, like I mean I basically already said it, but like that's just think about it. You're preparing for the Cowboys. You know you're preparing for Zeke. If there is at least a wide receiver out there, you'd have to prepare for him. They don't have to prepare for any of those other guys. Those other guys are not going to beat them single-handedly. You know, you can let Hearns get a couple catches. You know Gallup's going to drop a ball each game. You know, Beasley's not going to beat you deep. He's just going to beat you on like little routes to the outside and stuff.
Yeah.
And they have 0 tight end. The Swain is a bust. I mean, I don't know what they thought about that. Like, they did nothing to try to fix their problems that they lost this last summer. And I think Frederick is a big deal too. I think that's something we didn't talk about. Frederick is a huge deal not having him.
Yeah, their lineman Frederick, who was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, probably their second best lineman to Tyron Smith, the tackle, I would say.
Well, think about what he does as a center, though. He's calling, he's helping that offensive line. He's probably a lot of the things that Dak's having to do now, Frederick was able to do. I think Dak's having to do so much more at the line as well.
And like you said, they're stacking the box, so it's like, okay, I'm checking out of the run to throw to Tavon Austin. Well, shit, like
Ugh.
the guy who burned out with the Rams. Are you kidding me? That's Dak's number
Well,
one
and
option.
they basically use him as like their little flexy guy that does like stuff out of the backfield, catches screen passes. Like it's rare that I've seen them like send Tavon Austin deep. It's all like little short stuff, you know. Like he's basically a glorified running back.
The way that they use Tavon Austin and Beasley are both. It's always we're gonna throw you nothing over 10 yards, God forbid. And Tavon Austin had that one long pass last week, I know, but essentially what happened is like the guy blew the coverage and he caught like a medium range route and just broke off. It's not like he caught a deep bomb. But the Cowboys offense right now, the way that it works is a total joke. It's the defense. Think about what the safeties think. They never have to worry about anything getting behind them. They know that it's going to be a run or essentially a check down pass. It's too easy. So the Cowboys aren't looking very good, and I think we should review Sam versus Stephen A. Race. Sam, take it away.
Yes, I'm so proud of you.
We got to hear
Thank
this,
you.
Sam. Tell us about it.
All right. Let's see. Well, first of all, I was kind of nervous going into Monday night because I think I was down by like 20-something points. No, I wasn't down that bad. It was
You're down
tight.
by 7 or 8.
Yeah,
It
I was
pretty
down.
close. And who
It
did
was
you have
close.
left? It was Evans
I
and
had-
Fitz versus Antonio Brown.
That's a good matchup. That was my most excited matchup of all the matchups in my fantasy leagues of like who's going to win this. That was my favorite one. I thought that was going to be a good one.
Yeah, rarely do you get to go into Monday night with like that many points still available with two good teams still close.
Yeah, so I was really excited for that game. I finally broke down. I've had Andrew Luck as the quarterback. He's been lackluster, to say the least, this season. So I thought I'd give some Fitz magic a try, and boy, did that pay off. I was really nervous start of that game. They were awful in the first half. I think he threw a pick six.
Yeah, for like his third pick.
His third pick, and
he threw all three of those picks in like the matter of like 6 minutes in the second quarter. Like it all happened so fast. I was like, oh gosh, this is not going the way I want it.
Yeah, it went downhill to Curry, and then the second half, I think the Steelers only had 3 possessions in the second half, so it was kind of really bad for Spencer. My guys had the ball the whole second half trying to come back, and Antonio Brown was on the bench. Steelers running on the field, so that worked out really well. My defense didn't do anything for me. They got blown out by Carolina. Talk about Watson not connecting with Hopkins deep. Will Fuller got a couple deep routes, a couple touchdowns, or at least one touchdown.
Fuller is good, man. He's a solid pick.
Yeah, I love Fuller with Watson healthy. I love that connection. We'll see how long Watson can stay healthy behind that line. And then McCaffrey had his best game of the season. So.
Oh, dude, did they give him like 29 carries?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he had 130 yards, something like that. Yeah, he had a really, really nice game. So
they were pounding
had some things coming together.
28
That's right.
carries. I love that.
Yeah. So excited to get the win. Nice little, almost 30-point blowout. So.
Yeah, in the second half when AB caught the TD and when Fitzpatrick was throwing all the picks, and I think Spencer was up by like 8 or so. I was kind of nervous because I was like, if Fitzpatrick keeps playing like this is not good. But then second half came around and he threw a touchdown, and then he threw that one to Mike Evans, and I was like, all right, it's over.
Yeah.
When Fitz was out there on the field imploding and throwing all those picks, Winston was over there licking his lips like there was a big old stack of crab legs waiting for him.
Oh,
my God. Off that suspension.
What do you so I have a question about your team. What is your feelings about George Kittle? Now you have Ertz. I know a lot of people are like off of Kittle now because of the injury to Jimmy G. But to me, CJ Beathard's the quarterback for San Francisco. Kittle played at Iowa. They both have a good chemistry. They threw to each other a lot before that. I mean, do you still view Kittle as an option, or are you going to be with Ertz all year?
I think I'm going to try to stick with Ertz as long and kind of see how Wentz plays out. I think he's only had one game back and try to see which connection's a little bit better. I might still switch depending on the matchup, but I like Ertz a little bit better. Just he's a more proven option.
Yeah, well, you can drop Kittle whenever you want.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll keep that under consideration.
All right, I'll be waiting.
Moving on.
Can we talk about something about Spencer's team real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
If he does make the playoffs or whatever, he can thank being in terrible position at the first of the year. Like, he got so lucky getting Freeman, and just so he knows, he's gotten all the waiver wire guys that he's wanted. Allison, that's a good one. Lindsey, that's a good one. So if you don't make it to the playoffs at the end of the year, I don't want to hear about it because you've had all the help in the world.
We can
Baker, move on now.
He got Freeman. He's almost tanking, guys. The motherfucker's pulling a 76ers on us. Yeah, and two of the people that Spencer's put in requests for, I've also had requests in for, which is like boo-hoo. Some weeks, guys, I feel like there's a waiver request that about 8 people in the league put in for. And it's just
I think Freeman was one.
Yeah,
I'm thinking... I don't know why. Another thing I'm questioning, he dropped Chris Thompson off on a bye this week. Like, I know he played really bad this last week, he wasn't a part of the offense. But the first 2 weeks, I mean, he's been a really good back. He was RB10 after 2 weeks, and he dropped him. So I'm kind of perplexed about why he dropped Chris Thompson. But other than I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was looking at that too, dude, and I think it's because AP popped off so much.
I
A
feel like he's like because he started him. Like it was one of those things. Like he's upset at
a
him, so he
rage
dropped
drop.
a rage drop.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
think
a
that's what he
rage drop.
did. Well, he's gonna pay for that. Let me just tell him that.
So Bing Bong took on the Alex Smiths here, and I guess Aaron changed his name because
Every
appropriate.
fucking week.
Yeah, Aaron, he changes his name like a Facebook status, and this week he's basically naming it after someone who's known for being average, which is a very appropriate name for a team like Aaron's, which is 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's very below par or mediocre frequently. It's not terrible, but to me it ranks maybe like an eighth or a ninth in the league, maybe even a little worse, depending on what moves that he makes. But
Well, when
here,
he makes his little homer, like his little homer picks at the end of drafts, like getting
Dan Bailey.
Dan Bailey, and like I think he's got Des Bryant too. Like it's just I don't know. I feel every round of your draft is so important, and I feel like he kind of jokes around. He was joking around at the end of the draft, and that is when I'm the most serious. Is at the end of the draft.
He's playing
And
with real dudes now.
but I will say he has a lot of balls for taking Kamara second overall. I don't think in any other league that I've ever seen someone decided with Kamara overall. But I mean, he's been the second best back, if not the best back, in the first 3 weeks. Now that might change when Ingram comes back, but it's looked good so far.
Yeah, that was a really ballsy pick. And I was with Spencer and the Watsons in real life drafting. And Spencer about fell out of his chair when he took Chimera. It was a real shocker. But regardless, we see Bing Bong here puts up 78. The Packers don't do well. They get lit up by Washington. Bilal Powell doesn't break 10. Saquon Barkley continues to look good. Deshaun Jackson really came up soft in a week where, well, frankly, it looked like he was going to have at least 10 because of how the Pittsburgh defense looked, I think. And to me, Cameron looked a little average or a little below average, but Aaron looked bad here. Jesse James didn't even get him a point. Diggs was shit. Aguilar was shit. Kamara was really the only shining ray of hope that Aaron had. Drake was atrocious. The Dolphins put up 28 points and the guy put up 1. Bortles didn't break 10. Like, Aaron looked really bad here. And he benched
Well,
Peterson.
he just didn't trust his draft. It's like, why did you draft Phillip Rivers if you're gonna like off a hot start Blake Bortles? That's your first issue there. Like, and then obviously Drake didn't work out, and that's what Stephon Diggs does. Stephon Diggs scores 33 for you one week, and he scores one for you the next. So
Mm-hmm.
you start him every week. That's why I don't draft someone like Stephon Diggs, because I can't stand stuff like that. And then like the same to go with Bortles. Oh, Bortles had a huge week, so he decided to start him again. Jesse James, another one thing that I will say, him drafting Lynch has been consistent all year. I think he's had over 10 points in all 3 of his games. But yeah, not starting Peterson was the problem. But I can't fault him after what Peterson did week 2. I wouldn't have started him over Drake. The projections probably told you Drake was going to get 4 more, and there's no way, you're gonna do that.
Yeah, I just saw that Drake only got 5 touches in his game. That's just brutal.
Dude, Frank Gore has been looking good. He looks good this year. He's not getting a whole lot of the touches, but Frank Gore looks good, and I feel like Gore is taking more and more of Drake's touches because Gore's showing that he still has it in him, even as old as he is. And he's a better pass blocker on third down than Drake is.
Yep. Frank Gore can block, certainly. I think we should now move on to no fried rice for you versus Mahomes is where the heart is. And Benny Boy puts up 90, but he comes up short here behind Randall Cobb going absolutely flaccid, and Tyreek Hill not connecting with Patty Mahomes. And frequently when we see these teams that are pretty much built around this discount double points method, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill in this case, if the receiver quarterback combo does not connect, frequently the team will struggle. And this week, Ben's team failed to break 100, which I sort of feel like is the golden standard in a non-PPR league. No Fry did break 100 and takes the W behind Calvin Ridley. Sam, what did you think about this game?
Well, No Fraud got a big lift from Calvin Ridley. Just had him. I think is he the number 3 receiver in Atlanta right now?
Yeah,
Yeah, behind
And
one
Jones and
slot.
yeah, Sanu.
yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody would have predicted that Ridley would go for 33 points. Bears defense had a good day too. Um, yeah, getting point 3 from Randall Cobb just kind of killed Ben here.
I think one thing to say though about this is Cousins only had 10. Cousins had a terrible game. Mahomes got his 25. I think in a normal week, no Friday, good production out of his quarterback, and maybe not as much as production out of Ridley. So I think no Friday would have still won because I think in a normal week, I think he's going to have better production from his QB and maybe not as much from his flex. And Tyreek Hill was good week 1, week 2. Or week 1 he was really good, but he really hasn't connected. Mahomes is thrown to like 9 different receivers, so I mean the wealth is going to be spread. I thought week 1 I was like, oh man, the way you're going to be able to counter Mahomes is to have Hill on your team, but I've realized that that's not going to work.
Yeah, no, Mahomes is going to spread that thing around. I think Watkins has had 2 good weeks in a row now, where he's broken 10,
And
and he
I
had
will
2 the
say,
first week.
I love Cooper Kupp. I'm absolute favorite player in the league, and I love that Ben, continues to draft him every year, whatever the last 2 years. But I love Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Cup. Alrighty, so No Fried takes the win there, and personally, I think No Fried is looking like a pretty strong team. And then
Yeah, that's
finally,
a.
go ahead, dude. Sorry.
I said no. He looks like a really. I mean, that's a pretty deep team. He's got Cousins, Gordon, Julio Jones, Hopkins, and then yeah, if he can keep producing, that's a decent team.
So Jackson, I want to hear your little explanation of Sea Gouch versus me. It couldn't come from a better mouth. Let's hear it.
Well, we got Derrick Henry in the starting lineup, so we know what we're getting out of that. But okay, so one thing that I was with Christian when he drafted, and one thing that he did to me that was very perplexed was the fact that he drafted Breida and he drafted Alfred Morris in the draft, and he drafted them back to back that way, and I was really confused why he did that. And I guess he did it so nobody could have him. He didn't know which guy was going to be the guy, and stuff like that. So I don't really know why he did that, but I mean, he can't start both of them. So I don't know. Like this week, he's in a huge issue because he's got Cook and he's got Henry. Henry's on a pitch count, or Cook's on a pitch count. Henry's really not even the top back, and so I don't know. But he's done a good job. His receivers look good. Hilton, he's going to bust at times. Galladay been a good pickup if you didn't draft him. Beckham got him a solid 10. And then, you're not going to get 40 out of Matt Ryan anymore this year. My favorite thing about this, though, is he changed his name about like halfway through Sunday when Matt Ryan did all the things he did. And then it's saving Matt Ryan, like Matt Ryan saved him this week. And he still lost. So it's just great. I don't know. I just think it's really funny that went on this week. But and I don't know. Not a terrible team. I mean, if he would have had Cook, it would have been nice. His team would have maybe been a little bit better than Henry. But then he started Dan Bailey. I know multiple people that did that. That might have been the stupidest thing I've seen all week. But I mean, that single-handedly lost him the game. Like if you would have just started a kicker like Hauschka, I think Hauschka probably had 8 points this week. So I don't know. Go ahead.
People just weren't expecting Minnesota to shit the bed so bad versus Buffalo. Man, even if they lost, I think a lot of people were like, well, he'll kick like 3 extra points or a field goal. Like, he's going to get at least 3. And earlier when you said the thing about the San Fran running backs, you said, well, he can't start both. Well, shit, dude, at this point, that might literally be his best option. If Jimmy G goes down, like, they're going to be running that thing 30, 40 times a game, surely. So maybe if both of these guys can get 11 every week, like, it's got to be better than Henry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they both have. I mean, Breida does all his work yardage. Like, he's a yard guy. And then Morris is got the TD, but he still had 67 yards. I mean, like you said, they're just going to be even more run heavy now that Jimmy G's gone and they have CJ Beathard as their quarterback. How I don't know how he got to the NFL, but he is the QB for the next year.
Oh my God. I feel so bad for Niner fans. They were sold this sort of absurd idea of excellence that they were guaranteed because
Yeah.
Jimmy G won a few fucking mop up games and all of a sudden they're playoff worthy. They get a washed up Richard Sherman and they think they're fucking, God's own
Yeah, and
gift
then
to
McKinnon,
football.
they added McKinnon for like 30 mil in the summer, not even getting to use him.
Yeah, blew
Like,
his knee out in the preseason.
well, let's talk about. So I noticed this year, maybe you do this most years, and it just didn't pan out. I didn't really like the formula, but somehow it's worked out. Not that you're starting TJ Yeldon, but like you've got all these backs on your team that are like backups, and they like have benefited from injuries. Like Coleman has completely benefited. He's a guy that he might be doing some of this, but he's like a starter now. And now he's a guy you can plug in your lineup every week. You added Ivory. Ivory had 12. Bernard, I would have started Bernard. I like
Yeah,
having three backs.
I was heavily
So,
considering starting Bernard.
but yeah, I mean, and then that Bernard's another one. Like, I don't know how and then Yeldon, got Yeldon in both drafts that in the leagues that I'm in. So like, it's definitely like a plan or an emphasis on going after guys that are like the second guy that they're the front guy's an injury prone,
Yes.
guy.
No, it's an astute observation. I absolutely targeted Yeldon because I knew Fournette was injury prone. And frankly, I'm a guy who usually gets stuck in the 11th or 10th spot in drafts. So in the past, a lot of times that has meant like, okay, if I want a running back, Freeman is the only guy that's available. So I get Freeman, and then Freeman always gets hurt about 3 games a year, maybe 4 or 5 or worse, but usually it's at least 3. But then like Coleman will steal his touchdowns and get a
Yeah.
lot of the production, but you can get Coleman real late. So that's what I did. I said, forget fucking Freeman. I'm just going to get Coleman. And if Freeman gets hurt, I'm looking pretty. But even if he doesn't, he's a decent number 2. And then, of course, as I said earlier, Bernard, he's a decent guy who gets his touches. And in this case, he started in the case of week 3. And everyone always talks about how injury prone Fournette was. So to me, Yeldon seemed like a solid choice.
Yeah, I'm upset about the Yeldon in my other league because I have Fournette and he's literally gotten 7 points all year and he's not even supposed to play again this week or whatever. It's a game time decision.
Brutal.
It's really upsetting. But I
Sam,
have Connor, so I'm not upset.
Connor's your savior, man. I
He
love it.
is, dude. I was thinking about changing my team names, something that had to do with Connor, just to piss more people off. Just having to see that whack haircut that he has every week on my picture.
It would suck for you if Bell like randomly decides to re-sign in like week
Dude,
6 or some
I'm
shit.
thinking about. I don't know if I want to expose this to the entire league, but I'm thinking about trying to see if Ben wants to make a trade where like I give him some value now and I take Bell, and I'm wondering if he would give Bell up, and if I can get a good enough lead here at the first of the year, and then take some L's, and then I'll have Bell and Gurley at the end of the year. That might be a good formula.
It's a really interesting idea because Ben is a guy who took a huge hit with the Greg Olson injury, and despite looking like a very powerful team in some aspects, he has a lot of weaknesses with the running back depth, with the fact
Yeah.
that he's really relying on Mahomes, which is sort of what his team is built around, but at the same time, the fact that Mahomes is a rookie, I feel like adds a little bit of risk, and Ben really wants to bolster the rest of his lineup as much as he can. So before we go into next week's matchup, Sam, I want you to briefly give me your thoughts on my team, which is 3-0 and just took a win off of old C. Goucher.
Sea Goucher.
I really like your team. I mean, Breeze, I think, is a great fantasy option. He puts up incredible numbers, even at an older age. Tevin Coleman, like I said, I think I had Tevin last year. And even with Foreman being the number one back, he always gets touches, whether it's in the passing game or the run game. I feel like David Johnson has not had as good of a year, but that's mainly because Arizona's been a dumpster fire. Um,
Yep.
AJ Green has had some great games. I love Smith Schuster. He gets a lot of touches, I feel like, in the Steelers offense right now. And they've had to sling it a lot lately. Gronk, I think he's probably one of the better tight ends in the league still. And he's kind of Brady's best option. Like Cooks, and I like the Rams defense. So, I think you got a very consistent team that's going to get you good numbers every week. I don't know. Every once in a while you'll have Breeze go crazy, and I'm sure you'll have a good game for David Johnson eventually. But
Hopefully.
uh,
Hopefully by
hopefully,
week 9, man. I'm sitting here with David Johnson like, break 15, motherfucker.
I was
Yeah.
I honestly thought your team was like all right, but now that these injuries have happened to all those backs, I think it's bolstered it and made it a top team. Because at the first year you're looking at those guys now, Bernard, Yeldon, they need a domino to fall and a lot of these dominoes have already fell, and you have a bunch of them on your team. So it's just, and then like those are the guys that people would have been adding in the waiver wire. Where, well, they're already on your bench, so they're not even waiverable.
Yeah. I tell you what, whenever I was thinking about drafting Yeldon, I viewed it this way. Fournette is about as likely to get injured as Josh Hamilton is to smoke crack. And that's when I drafted TJ Yeldon. Thought of a chore boy and a plastic rose, and I hit that draft button.
That's what I'm gonna start doing when I have some like really important decisions. I'm like, what would Josh Hamilton do? That's
Like,
gonna be what I do.
you run right to a convenience store. Yeah, I need a chore boy and a plastic rose and some
One,
gas.
I want to say something about Ben's team too. So he's like, I don't ever know where he's at. Like he's not on fantasy like every day like most people. I don't know what he does now. But like I don't know if that first week he just wasn't on or whatever, but I sent him a trade. This is actually really funny. I sent him a trade joking. I didn't know what Connor was going to be, but I knew Bell was out and I was like, "Well, maybe I can get some value from him and give him Connor."
Yeah.
And I sent him James Conner for Greg Olson. And he didn't see it, or he didn't ever look at it. And then Sunday comes around and Connor scored the 30, and I was like, I hope that trade's not still sitting there, because then Olsen got hurt as well. Like he had an opportunity, if he would have paid attention, he could have got Connor at the first of the year.
Yeah.
But because he doesn't pay attention like he used to, And at the first year, I was thinking, okay, Olsen for this guy, I don't know what he's going to do. This is an okay trade, Like Ben needs it. I kind of need a better tight end than what I got. And then I was like, oh, crap, never mind. This was a bad trade for me.
That's an amazing story, especially when you consider Ben has Bell, and having Connor would have essentially alleviated the main problem within his team. And if you live under a rock somehow, Greg Olsen, who despite getting hurt last year, had 1,000+ yards 4 consecutive seasons before that, had a severe injury in the first week. So Jackson would have gotten completely screwed. He would have given up a guy who essentially has been top tier and is probably going to be top tier for maybe 6 or 7 more weeks. Probably to week 11, I would say. Like that don't you think, like, worst case scenario, he's going to make it to week 11 at the latest?
Yeah, I think that's worst case scenario. I'm really worried though. I know the way, when I'm talking shit to Spencer, I know the way he sees it is he's going to have, I'm not when I play him week 12, I'm not going to have Gurley, and I'm probably not going to have Connor either. So he should win that week, because I'm not going to have my best player, and I'm going to also not have Connor. So, but what it did make me realize is I need to be paying attention all year to how am I going to replace Connor when Connor's gone. And that's kind of what my main focus for my team is on mainly on the year.
I love to hear that, because in large part, I'm not saying he does think this, but in the past, some owners in this league might not have had that much foresight. They might have just sort of been like, wow, this Connor guy's so good, I'm going to win the Super Bowl, and then not have been prepared
No,
for it.
Connor won't be there when the Super Bowl comes around.
Exactly.
He's going to be dropped probably. And I might pick him up Super Bowl week because he was a big part of the team this year.
let's jump into the Week 4 preview. And let's get spicy. Let's start it off with me versus Sam. A very entertaining matchup, one of Weston's matchups to watch for. And this is sort of weird because I don't do a lot of three-man episodes, and we're both part of this, so I'm going to start off. We're going to go by position, and then I'll sort of throw it to you guys. So Drew, and I'm going to assume, Sam, that you have your line. Do you have your lineup set, Sam?
Probably, yeah. I don't think I'm going to change it at this point.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Earlier today, I was still looking for another running back to see if there's anything better than Dion Lewis since I have McCaffrey on bye, but I think I'm going to have to roll with that.
I was just making sure you were starting Fitz.
So, no, Fitz is starting.
Okay, so we have
for sure.
We have Drew Brees versus Fitz, and to me, I see opponent at New York Giants, and then I look at a guy like Fitz who had flashes of brilliance, but also had interceptions, and I think that Drew Brees gets the clear advantage here. Jackson, you lead us off, and then after Jackson's done, I want to hear what Sam has to say.
He definitely has the matchup advantage. What I talked about last week about how, what Deshaun Watson did in the second half, other than those turnovers, Brees isn't going to turn those balls over in the red zone. I think they have a huge week. I really think this Giants-Saints game is going to be a huge one, high scoring. I don't think either of them have good defenses. So I think Brees has a better output. When you think about Fitzpatrick, he's going to be going against Bears defense. Bears defense has been solid all year. I would just take, unless, we have one of these games where he chunks a deep ball to Deshaun Jackson, first rattle out of the box, that really gets him off to a good start. I envision a couple of picks, a solid performance, but a couple of picks. Maybe hooking up with Mike Evans would be key in this matchup.
Yes, I definitely agree with the Mike Evans element. So, Sam, what do you think? You're starting Fitz. Is that a part of it, this discount double point strategy some people adore?
That's been part of it. Also, I think Fitz is going to sling it no matter what, and that's going to get, at least some yardage out of it. Luck, I don't think he's completed more than maybe 18 passes a game. I feel like he's just been really underperforming. I think he also doesn't have the weapons really to go out and get people. Fitz has got Deshaun Jackson. He's got Evans. He's got O.J. Howard in his second year at Alabama has looked good. I agree the matchups favor Brees here. New York lost to the Cowboys.
Godwin's caught a TD in all three of the games as well.
Godwin's they've done a really good job of spreading the ball around. So I don't think he's going to play a clean game, but I think he's going to put up some numbers.
Something to touch on with Luck is at the end of that game last week, they had a Hail Mary opportunity at the end of the game, and they brought Jacoby Brissett in to throw the deep ball. So I think that Luck's not at 100%. I really don't even know how far he can throw the ball. So I don't like Luck.
Yeah. I've read some of that stuff too. Or I didn't watch the game, but I read an article about that. I was like, oh, great. Yeah.
Two things. A, this reminds me of when Darvish came off of Tommy John and the Rangers would never let him pitch out of the seventh inning even. It was okay, you got 80 pitches. We're going to bring in some shit to your guy to blow your lead. They're sort of treating Luck like that. But not just this year, but in general, I personally think Andrew Luck might be one of the most overrated players of all time. When you hear about, maybe not all time, maybe within the last 2 decades, but you hear constantly about how this guy's top tier. Obviously, when he was drafted, there was this huge pedigree. Everyone thought he would come in and be elite. He did have that one really good year, but since then, it's been nothing but injuries and mediocrity. And the guy has had some weapons. Not the best offenses, but some weapons to work with. And personally, every single year I expect Andrew Luck to underperform. I want to hear what you guys have to say about that.
When you look at Luck and you think about how his career started and what it really is piggybacks is off that game when he played the Chiefs and he came back all that point. So he automatically got just super hyped up, super up to the upper echelon of the quarterbacks. And now when you think about it, if you try to really think about it, you can name, maybe 5 quarterbacks that are better than him. But like when you look and you're talking about quarterbacks, a lot of with quarterback it's accolades and like what you've done throughout your career. And so there's like guys like Andy Dalton where you can't put him above Luck, but Luck isn't necessary. Luck may be a little bit better on a chart, like if you're rating them, but Luck isn't like in another tier. You know what I mean? Like Luck is in that same tier. So it's just like I think Luck is better than most of the quarterbacks in the league, but he's not that upper echelon of the Breeze, the Brady, the top guys in the league. I just don't feel that.
Sam, he's on your team. What do you think of Andrew Luck? Is he top tier?
I kind of agree with a lot of Jackson saying I don't think he's top tier. Certainly not as a fantasy quarterback. I think if I'd gone back and able to redraft, I probably would have gone a different direction. I think he's also suffered from not been on some very good teams. I think the Colts have just kind of been very, very mediocre since Manning left. I just haven't drafted well, haven't had good luck with injuries. And I think they're just kind of stuck in this 6, 7, 8 game rut. And Luck hasn't played well enough to get him out of it. And I don't think Luck has kind of been just good enough to get him to 8 wins, but it hasn't really fallen off enough for them to be a 3-4 win team where they actually get to take somebody nice in the draft. They just kind of they're stuck in that 6 to 7, 8.
Well, and I
will say this. When I'm watching Andrew Luck, I'm like looking at the Colts team and I'm like, who can do something for this team? I am like, well, at least I have Andrew Luck. Like at the end of the day, I still give him a little bit of credit for what he has done. And I will say he doesn't like you were saying, he does not really have that good of a team around him. And he does do a pretty good job of taking care of the ball and doing some good things. He goes and he takes hard hits, like he'll put his hat down for his team. So he's a good team player. I think the other players play hard for him. I think they're a couple of drafts away. They need to really make that defense better, get some weapons for him, and they could be right there in that division.
in terms of how much a team believes in a guy, I think that Andrew Luck has got to be like right up there with Brady, because not only the media but the Colts treat this guy like he's the future. I don't even think it's in their brain to, even if they're the first overall pick, I don't think they're taking a quarterback. Andrew,
Dude,
Andrew Luck is that guy for them. If they're going to have high drafts, they're going to take weapons for him. Go ahead, Jackson.
Sorry about that. When I watched Colts games in the past, you saw all the 18 jerseys everywhere. It's 12s now. Like they've completely transitioned from Manning to Luck. Like that's been like the whole goal of the franchise is for everybody to just transition into the Luck era, thinking that it's going to be the same as the Manning era, and they're very like believing in it because of how well the Manning era went. And they knew it took a couple years to get going. The 01, 02, 03, those weren't pretty years. But think about 04, think about 05, think about 7, 8. They're committed to the plan of Luck.
Yeah, the fans are like almost emotionally invested into it at this point. They've been fed this narrative that this high draft pick guy, he is our savior. He's going to be the next Manning. This is the guy that we had to rebuild, and we're really going to rebuild around him, and he's going to be the everything man. And despite the fact that he's had lackluster, injury-ridden seasons, years later the Colts fans are still sort of saying like, well, he's still our guy, he's that good. Like, it's almost like it's been memed into reality. Like, it's been said so many times where people just believe it now. And even though he hasn't, like, if you just look at his numbers, like, he hasn't really done a whole lot. Like, he's shown promise, but in terms of like actually tearing it up and being the successor to Peyton Manning, it's not all that great. But I want Jackson, tell me about my running backs, Coleman and Johnson, versus the running backs of Lewis and Hunt. And then after you're done with that, I want Sam to talk about it. I have to use the restroom and refresh my drink. I'll be right back. But take it away.
All right. So, I liked Lewis. Week 1. I obviously had to play against him, and that really stuck in my mind, those 17 points or whatever. But he hasn't been that good the last 2 weeks. And he shares time with Henry, and I don't expect him to get the goal line touches all the time. I would think on a percentage that Henry's going to get most of touches around the goal line or whatever. But I mean, the Titans do, play some tricks, and they'll throw Lewis in there and times where they don't think that they're going to be running the ball, and they'll run it out of like out of a shotgun type stuff. But I mean, and Hunt, I'm not a huge fan of Hunt, but like with the offense that he's on, he's in the red zone constantly. If they get on the one, they're handing it to Hunt. He had 2 touchdowns last week, was serviceable, and he didn't really even have any yards. I think he's done that 2 weeks in a row now. And he wasn't good week 1, but that's the thing about Hunt. That's how it was for me. I mean, I didn't start him that first week last year that I had him, and he had like 40 that week. And then I started him every week after that. And I had these terrible outputs. And if I would have just trusted my gut and put in like a Rex Burkhead that I got off the waiver wire, I would have been better off than starting Hunt. So he's just scary because of that. And obviously I think if you had McCaffrey in your lineup, I think I would probably like your backs better. And something else that I am big on, I don't know if other people pay attention to this, but times of games. I love to have one guy left on Monday night, or like having the last guy. So if I am losing, I can come back, or, whatever. And Hunt is playing on Monday night, so I like that. David Johnson was like the top guy that I wouldn't have grabbed, because I knew he was on a bad team. When you're on a bad team, you have less offensive chances. So of all those backs at first, like I would have took Bell over I would have took Johnson, because I just didn't like that he's on a bad team. He could go off, but he might not have a good game. He's going to have a great projection every week and make your team look good, but is he really going to get that projection? I don't know. Tevin Coleman, like I said, you benefit from the injury of Freeman. I'm not a guy that would draft Tevin Coleman. I don't like to do things like that where trusting, hoping an injury happens. But I think obviously with the injury, Tevin Coleman is a good back, and he's going to be a good back for another couple of weeks at least.
Alrighty. So Sam, what do you think? Kareem Hunt versus David Johnson and Coleman versus Lewis. Who do you give the matchup edge here to?
I think something interesting to watch for David Johnson is I believe Josh Rosen is getting the start this week over Sam Bradford in Arizona.
Yes.
So, you've got a rookie quarterback against the Seahawks. That may translate some more touches for Johnson. Hunt, like Jackson was saying, Hunt's been I don't think he's had a really great yardage output yet this year, but he's gotten some vulture touchdowns in the red zone. And I think, hopefully that continues. The Chiefs offense is fun to watch, but I think as a fantasy owner, it is, it's just kind of a mixed bag. You have no idea who's getting the ball at which point, which is great for an offense versus a defense, but it makes it really hard to predict outcomes for fantasy guys. Hopefully Dion Lewis bounces back a little bit. I think overall, I trust your backs a little bit more this week.
I would have to agree. I think considering the Freeman injury and the fact that Johnson is, everyone thinks Seattle's defense is still god tier because of the sort of perception of them from the past, but David Johnson had to go up against LA and Chicago the last couple weeks. I think he'll finally break 15 this week against Seattle, playing in Arizona.
Yeah, to touch on, I definitely think your backs have the advantage. But to touch on the Hunt, too, I've seen a lot of Spencer Ware in the passing game. And so that's something that scares me, too, with Hunt, is the amount of touches that I've seen Ware get in the passing game.
Does
that worry you, Sam?
It worries me having to rely on him as running back 1 this week. I think he's – yeah. I mean,
he's the first. You had to draft him for your first pick. Like I hate where Hunt is on draft boards, because to me he's not the top. He's not a top back, but you have to draft him as a top back.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah. Kansas City spreads the ball around a lot, and it's every week is just kind of a lottery as to who has the big week.
Hunt's role has sort of been a little bit diminished, like Jackson said. It's weird because it's not like, it's like he doesn't get any carries or touches. It's sort of, the offense, they just spread it around so much. It's almost like a Patriot situation or something. But
I will say, if they're on the 1 yard line, they're handing it off to Hunt. Because I've had to play, I think, Hunt twice this year now, in 2 of my different leagues, and I've been like hawk and eye when they're on the goal line because I'm like, they ain't about to run this in. They're about to throw. Mahomes is about to pull this and go in and on himself. But no, they always give it to Hunt.
Yeah, and that's got to be nice being a Hunt owner, knowing that
He got 2 TDs last week, and he didn't even do nothing. I was playing him too. I was upset.
And they air it out a lot, but you're right, Jackson. When they get in that goal line, they're going to hand it off to Hunt. And at least for Hunt, the guy that he's competing with, he's at least competing with him passing-wise. The worst is when you get a back who competes with him in the goal line, and you have the quote-unquote main guy who gets all of his touchdowns stolen. That's the worst.
Deion Lewis. The thing else about like the Chiefs, okay, they're going to be on the 1 yard line, and they're still going to be in a shotgun with Kelsey out wide, Tyreek coming across the middle. Like, you have so much to worry about. Like, I would not even be thinking about them running the ball. I'd be trying to get on Hill, trying to get on Watkins, trying to find out where Kelsey's at. Kelsey's basically a wide receiver. His hands are ridiculous.
Yeah, Kelsey is scary. He's a very difficult option to defend. AJ Green's coming off of injury, but
Are we starting him?
I think I'm going to start him if he plays, and it's looking like he's going to play. And I think he'll outperform Golden Tate, who's been solid.
Yeah, Golden Tate's having to fight matchups or fight targets right now with Galladay and Jones. And Stafford, he's gonna spread the wealth.
Stafford does spread it around quite a bit. What do you think, Sam? Tate or Green?
I'm going to give the edge to Green. Just I think he's more solidified himself as the number 1 option for the Bengals. I watched I think it was Detroit Pats game last week, and like I said, Stafford spreads the ball around, and they've got a few more options this year. Tate's been a good solid 8, 7, 10, 12 points. But he's not going to have a breakout game like AJ Green could. So I'm going to give you the edge there.
No.
But my thing is Mike Evans. I feel like Mike Evans is over Golden Tate. Can we compare Green to Evans? I'd take Evans in that matchup.
Yeah, I think Evans is going to perform the best out of all 4 of them.
I think we need to bring in, to make it fair, though, bring in your flexes. Look at the flexes, Fuller, Smith-Schuster. That's a compelling – I think how Cooks does tonight in the Thursday night game is really going to depend on – I look at Cooks more as your flex. I think Juju goes up against Tate better.
Yeah.
But Fuller and Cooks, it's going to be a toss-up for which one of those guys goes off, who catches the deep touchdown, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, those matchups are close, really close all across the board at wide receiver.
I just wanted to move Juju to flex because I wanted to have the option to move Gio Bernard into flex if I had to.
If I was you, I don't know. I don't want to say this because I don't want you to change your stuff, but I would have Smith-Schuster at wide receiver, and I would have Bernard at your flex. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I was tinkering with the lineup. I don't really want to take Cooks.
Why do you like Cooks so much? I just feel like he's in a crowded,
it is a little crowded
receiving core, and then like Cooper Kupp and Goff are best buds. Woods went off last week. I mean, I guess Cooks could be the guy this week. What I've noticed with Cooks is he draws a lot of those deep penalties, but that's not getting any yardage for you,
Yeah.
But he's done solid. So I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. Do your thing.
Well, the thing is last week he basically got stopped at the 1 yard line.
That was bullshit. I got a lucky TD. I think he scored that TD.
I think he did too.
I was like, what's going on? Why is Gurley coming in?
But I like Cooks. Until he falls off, I think I'm going to keep playing him. Although, depending on Smith-Schuster's health, I am sort of wondering what to do with him. Now, if he's healthy, I like to play him because I think they're going to focus Brown, and then Brown's going to really
If Schuster's playing, you're starting him.
Yeah, he's good.
You have to. This thing is like what you got to realize is teams now – they're attacking the number 1 wide receiver. They know who the number 1 wide receiver is, and they're attacking it. That's Green. That's Evans. That's Brown. So having these second-tier guys is almost better than having those top-tier guys. Having a Smith-Schuster, having a Deshaun Jackson. Those guys have put up just as much numbers as those top-tier guys because of the matchup advantages that they receive because of the top guy.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to quarterback too. The people with better quarterbacks are obviously going to do better, and the fact that Fitz has sort of come out of nowhere and connected with Deshaun Jackson so well has dropped a lot of people's jaws. Winston or Jameis, what is Jameis Winston, right? Jameis Winston, that's his name.
Yeah,
I'm not insane.
the
Yeah,
groper.
yeah, Mr. Crab Legs. Like this motherfucker throws to Evans almost exclusively. So it's weird to see Deshaun Jackson's reemergence under Fitz. I gotta go let my dog out real quick, but y'all should talk about Gronk versus Ertz, two of the best tight ends in the league.
Okay, I want to ask Sam first about, have you thought about flexing Watkins or Lockett on the start sit list that I see? I see Lockett all over the starts, and Watkins has really taken advantage of the fact that he's not the number one guy anymore. I think Fuller's projection is a little low. Like, I would think that he's going to have closer to 9. But did you have any thinking about putting Watkins or Lockett in?
Yeah, I've really thought about kind of tinkering some stuff after this week. I think Fuller's had 2 great weeks in a row. I think if he has another solid week, he's probably going to get started at the receiver spot. And then, I'm going to move another option, my flex. Either Watkins has had 2 good weeks.
I just think it's
back.
going to hurt if one of those guys in your lineup doesn't perform and you've got Lockett scoring another long TD.
Yeah.
Because he's done that like every week.
Yeah, no,
So
I probably need to move some stuff around or try to get some trades going. So I think I've got a lot of depth at wideout right now.
Yeah, I mean, Watkins has had 2 13-point performances in a row.
Yeah.
Watkins had over 10 each of his games.
Yeah.
And then you got Christian Kirk. I'm sure you're wanting to try to get him in the lineup sometime.
Yeah, I picked up Kirk today. I dropped Burkhead, who got placed on IR. He's got a neck injury. So I'm really curious to see what Kirk does this week with Rosen playing, if they've got a connection or not.
I don't know if you watched any of that Arizona-Chicago game. Rosen only came in on the very last possession when they were losing by like 2, and he really did. He looked really good. The offense moved down the field. I think he just threw a pick on like a 4th and 5, which he kind of was just throwing it up because it was 4th and 5, and he needed to get a first down. But he honestly looked pretty good. Like in the little bit of time that I saw him, he didn't look, shell-shocked being down 2 points in like a 2-minute drill. So we'll see what happens.
I think he's a good QB. I think he's going to be the future for Arizona. And hopefully Kirk is rather than later as well. But, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, this lineup's probably going to get shaken up after this week.
I love having depth on my team, but I hate it at the same time because then you see all these points that you leave. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like, at the same time, it's great to have the depth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Gronk, Ertz, obviously I think Gronk is over Ertz, but this is one of those things. Gronk has really not been Gronk this year, and Ertz, this is his second game back with Wentz. He did kind of take a dip in targets because of Dallas Goedert, which I'm a little bit nervous about because I have Ertz in another one of my leagues. But I think Gronk definitely, if we're going toe to toe, I think Gronk's probably the better guy. But I would not be upset having Ertz as my tight end this week.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. I mean, Gronk is best tight end in the league right now. And like I said, Ertz has only had Wentz back for a week.
Total of 6.6 for Gronk the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Gronk has got to break 10 against Miami this week.
All right, kickers. I think Matt Bryant's a good kicker, but he really hasn't got an opportunity to kick that much field goals. He hasn't broke 10 this year. And Jake Elliott's been all right. Obviously, it's going to go up since Wentz is in there now. So I think the kickers are pretty dead even unless one of these, those are hard to predict. And I'll take Rams defense over Bengals. I'm kind of throw it off while you're starting the Bengals defense. Actually, I think Atlanta's going to have a big day.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I should probably move that around, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would give myself the advantage in this matchup. Sam, do you disagree?
No, I think if I have McCaffrey starting this week, this is a much closer game. Um, and maybe you've had a more favorable matchup with Fitzpatrick. But I think as the way it is now, yeah, you should probably come away with a win this week.
Jackson?
Literally, I mean, there's 15 points is the difference in the projection. So obviously they should win. But I just feel like there's some X factors. The wide receiver matchup. Whoever wins the three, whoever's wide receivers score more points, I think is the big key. And then I think if Fitzpatrick and Evans can have a good game, maybe Fitzpatrick doesn't have a huge game, but he just throws maybe 2 or 3 TDs and 1 or 2 of those is to Evans. I think that may bring this back to pretty close. I'll still take Oive, though.
All right, I love it. Let's move on to the anomaly versus Jackson himself. I'll jump into this one. Roethlisberger has an injury, Jackson, and
Dude, those are all fake. We don't.
he's not.
We know he just like half the injuries are fake.
He's
Like they're
resting.
not real. Yeah.
All right, so I'm assuming he's full health against Brady. Now I know Miami is 3-0, but they're playing in Tom Brady's paradise, and I think that Brady does pretty well here. I also think Roethlisberger does pretty well. I would expect about a wash here, honestly.
Yeah. Miami's gonna have Gillettes at their neck this week. And I think Brady's going to bounce back. Hasn't lost 3 games in a row since 2002. I think Brady has a good week. But Ben's playing the Baltimore, the over-unders, the highest it's ever been for a Baltimore Pittsburgh rivalry. So I'm loving it. Let's keep it going.
What do you think, Sam? Who's getting the advantage?
Big Ben has been on a tear this season. I'm going to give him the.
Okay. Lamar Miller versus Todd Gurley. Obviously Gurley. I don't give a shit who he's playing.
Yeah.
Lamar Miller's been good this year, but he's a guy I won't draft. I just don't like Lamar Miller. But he's honestly been pretty solid this year. That's what I will say.
To me, Miller is one of these guys that's going to get between 8 and 12 points every week, and that's what you expect.
What honestly would be funner is if you flip it. If you compare Elliott to Gurley, I'm still going to take Gurley, and I would honestly take Connor over Miller as well.
I would take Connor over Miller too, and I would take Gurley over Elliott. Personally, I think you're very heavily favored here in the running back position. And then when I look at the receivers, nothing changes. We have Woods, who went off for the Rams against a hurt Fitz. I don't care that Rosen's starting. Fitz is old. I think Fitz might even retire at the end of this year. I think finally his age is showing. Amari Cooper is officially a bust in my opinion. As far as I'm concerned, he's had enough time at this point to prove that he has talent, and there's just not a whole lot of it there in my opinion.
When you think about the comparisons that he had, being from Alabama, obviously he doesn't have the same type of body as Julio Jones, but he's not came to par for an Alabama wide receiver.
People were acting like he was going to be the next fucking Megatron. Like, people were really hyping
He's
this
not even
guy.
that type of player, though. Like, he's a speed guy. Like, so it's just like, how are you going to compare him to someone like him when he's just like, he's super quick. A Cooper's quick, He's not going to go up and beat you, like, for a jump ball.
He was the next Darius Hayward Bay that Oakland took.
He is Hayward Bay, present day.
The new Hayward Bay. But personally, I don't like Cooper at all. Sam, do you like Cooper?
I kind of do. I think he's got enough talent to be a good second option. Like I said, he doesn't have the size. He's not going to play like Julio Jones. I was trying to give a good comparison. Because I even think one of the knocks on Cooper is he didn't have the top end speed. I think he's more of a change direction, make you miss kind of guy. And Alabama used him really well in college, but just hasn't really translated to the pros.
He drops a lot of balls, too.
Yeah. And I don't like Oakland's offense under Gruden. So,
have you noticed the Oakland's offense? Like, it's like they find the hot hand each week. Like, they're always running the ball. But then, like, receiving, like, Cook was week 1, Cooper was week 2, and then Nelson was last week. Like, I'm just like, who is it going to be? I don't know. I don't trust stuff like that. Get me out of the Oakland offense for fantasy.
It makes it real
Yeah.
shitty for fantasy when you have to sort of guess. When it's one guy is going to have a huge week, the others are going to be awful.
I
Makes it
do want to
really bad.
mention that Seagooch drafted Cooper and Carr in our other league, so he was banking on something maybe going on out there. He likes Amari Cooper as well.
That's interesting. Honestly, I would give Adams the edge here over Cooper, and I would give Woods the advantage over Fitz.
I'm honestly perplexed about starting Marvin Jones, but it would be about the targets issue. Woods had 23 last week. I'm just going to go with Woods. Goff spread the wealth.
To me, this is looking like a pretty clear win for Jackson, a bloodbath. He's got an advantage at flex. His tight end is healthy.
I don't think Ingram's even playing. Like, is this just like something that runs in the family? Like, quit early? Like, I'm trying to figure out. Like,
He's out for 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And like, I kind of want to talk to her. Like, I think I would start Ginn over Fitzgerald, and I think I would put James White in at your flex if you're listening when this comes out. You know, there's some things I would do to her lineup to help it out a little bit.
Yeah, and what's funny is the Spencer and Aaron episode, they both made recommendations as well, and they were right. And as far as James White goes, I think you've got to plug this guy in.
Well, Brady and White, like together, discount double points.
There
You know,
you go.
come on.
Especially when your other options are Fitz, Cooper, and Ginn. You know, like
Yeah.
there's not a whole
Well,
lot of
and the
consistency.
production that they brought out last week, I just feel like this lineup has not even been touched all week. I feel like I'm playing a graveyard lineup, and I'm scared that they're going to come out. Like, because I've seen on sit-start list, I've seen start Ginn, I've seen start White, I've seen start Lamar Miller, I've seen a lot of, like, start Brady. Like, I'm nervous. Like, this is like a graveyard lineup, but there's a couple of all right people in it.
Yeah,
This the right people.
this might be the week where Lily is gonna get like 85 plus again. I don't think she's gonna have a terrible 50.
I just want to keep scoring. I don't care who I'm playing. I'm just trying to score triple digits every week. That's my goal. If my team can get triple digits, let's go.
That's the way to
We're
do
playing
it.
against ourselves. We don't even know who we're playing.
I would give you Jackson the advantage here. What say you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm go with Jackson here. I think he's got the better backs, better receivers. His tight end's playing. Yeah,
Eifert sucks, but he's playing.
he's playing. So.
So Jackson, you think you're gonna win too, right? Obviously.
Yeah, the one thing I will say I've talked about this with Sam a minute ago. My times are really off. I don't like how I have all these Sunday night games, and I don't like how I have 2 Thursday night games that I'm like playing. That like my lineup's gonna be really weird. Like I'm gonna be losing by a lot on Sunday, and then hopefully I can come back that night because I've got a lot of fish in the barrel for Minnesota and LA and Pittsburgh, Baltimore. That's the only thing I'm nervous about.
Oh, that's true. All your points are in 2-3 games.
Yeah. So I don't like that. I was thinking about changing some stuff. That's why I didn't want to start Woods either. But I mean, I don't know. And Baltimore Pittsburgh usually is a defensive game, but it's supposed to be high scoring. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on. I'm nervous about this week, but I'm nervous every week.
You better hope these games don't turn out like Tennessee Jacksonville did.
Oh,
last week,
God.
that 9-6 shit show.
Yeah.
All right, I think this is a pretty clear win for Jackson, though. Let's move
Hey,
on.
did you know that me and you play next week? We could both be playing at 4-0.
Dude, that'll be maybe even the matchup of the freaking year.
Dude, if it's not in Weston's matchup and he's got some matchup against Billabong for Electric Billboard and they can't even freaking break 80, but they're the matchup of the week, yeah, this is going to be a fun one. Can't even break 80. But, hey, we're 2-1.
Weston versus Cameron. And, of course, Cameron's pretty much entire season hopes are wrapped up in the magnificent Aaron Rodgers, who has a big old droopy DNP next to his name. Is this one fake too, Jackson?
This is very fake. This is just so he doesn't have to practice on Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay. And
But he does have a knee injury. This is pre-existing.
he's facing off against Wentz, who looked sort of rusty last week. Look, Rodgers playing Buffalo. I think Rodgers is going to get the advantage even if he plays on one leg.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been as I mean, Rodgers the fact that he can't run really takes a lot away from his game. So I don't really like him as much as a fantasy quarterback now. As in the past, I've had it where he's ran a couple TDs, and in a league like this, you get 6 for a rushing TD. That's completely taken away. And Wentz, like you said, looked rusty playing against a good defense this week. I think that's more of a defensive game. I don't think Wentz will go off. I think Rodgers will outscore him, but I don't think it'll be a significant outscore.
Yeah. Sam, do you think Rodgers is going to do better than Wentz or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think Wentz is a more complete team around him, and it seems like Rodgers always has to be the offense for Green Bay. I have no idea what to expect out of Buffalo. I mean, they were really bad to start the season and then come out of nowhere and blast the Vikings last week. So
I think the Vikings were planning for for Los Angeles. I think they weren't thinking about
completely blew off Buffalo, and then
Yeah, I think they blew Buffalo off.
They thought Peterman.
They saw how bad they were in the first 2 weeks. Dude, Josh Allen was making plays.
he hurdled a safety.
I was proud of him.
They're like, they're going to start Peterman. We don't even have to study shit. Let's just watch the LA film 2 weeks in advance. Like, come on.
But I think y'all talked about it earlier. But yeah, like other than Emmanuel Sanders has been good for Weston's team. But other than Michael Thomas, and then obviously Fournette's hurt, but like his running backs are depleted. If you're starting Royce Freeman and Sonny Michel, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for your team.
Yeah, Michelle is like James White was last year. The guy's going to get 5 points every game in some obscure.
But he's going to be projected like 10 or 11 every week.
Yeah, he's going to get the
he
touchdown
might.
this week. This is the week.
This is it. Have you ever looked at the projection and been like, okay, so Michelle's getting 11 and James White's getting 11? Like that's how's that going to go down?
It's like, well, we know that they're going to score 4 touchdowns, so we're just going to say all their weapons are going to get the touchdown.
Yeah. But Brady's only projected like 20. So it's like, what? It doesn't make no sense.
And I think what you said about the running backs really hits home here, because Saquon Barkley has been pretty much everything he's been advertised.
He's been a beast.
Yeah,
he's been good.
He's been real good.
And honestly, Powell's been a solid RB2. Like, I mean, he's put up at least 7 each week, like, or 6.5. I mean, he's not a guy like I'm like, oh, I want some Powell in my lineup. But I mean, with what he's done, it's been okay for the fact that he doesn't have anything on his bench, to place there. His running backs are not good other than Barkley,
Yeah.
Yeah. At the top of the lineup here, I would definitely give Cameron the advantage. But if we look at Deshaun Jackson and Sanders and these sort of guys, I think that Jackson and Sanders are both sort of good options for both of these teams. And if we look at Michael Thomas and Landry, in my opinion, again, we're sort of looking at 2 decent players. But I would give Cameron the edge here, except for with Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas will have a big day.
Dude, Michael Thomas is the one bright light on this team. His 38 catches through the first 3 games. I think Thomas is going to go off again this week. I mean, he has been what you draft Antonio Brown to be. He has been this year. So this is a guy you draft in the 2nd round or maybe late first that you get really good first round production out of. So I think Michael Thomas is definitely the best one, and I think he's going to have another good week. I don't know if it's enough though to save him because he's so weak at all those other positions. But hey, I mean, if Billabong doesn't do his team, he doesn't have a tight end either. So it runs in the family.
He'll plug in a tight end before game day. Hopefully, I freaking hope so, man. Starting an active people is unforgivable.
I think another thing, Fournette. Is like if Fournette plays, I think it gives Weston a boost as well. Fournette not having a projection and having him at flex so he can flip him out. That's another thing that's going to be a big determining factor.
Yeah. Notice that Weston picked up Sterling Shepard of the Giants, and I think that he's
Yeah.
probably going to look to plug in Shepard if Fournette doesn't play, personally.
I think that's a good one. I mean, in my other league, I'm starting Man Shepard because Cam Newton has a bye. So I'm full force on that, hoping for the best luck in the world.
Yeah, Shepard brought in a touchdown last week, and assuming Cameron starts a tight end, I think I would give him the advantage if I consider Fournette's lack of health and the incredibly gaping hole in Weston's lineup at running back. Sam, who do you give the advantage to? Hello?
I'm here. I'm looking at the one-ups. I'm going to give it to Weston. I think between now and Sunday, Weston figures out a way to make this lineup the best against
Okay.
Cameron. I I just really can't pick against Weston. The fact that I'm not huge on Deshaun Jackson. I feel like he's a really a boom bust guy in that Tampa Bay offense. That either he's going to get one or two deep bombs, or he's only going to get a couple touches. Um, we'll see. And I think that game is going to be. I don't think it's going to be as much of a shootout as the past games have been. So um, I'm going to go Weston
All right.
still.
I
Jackson?
think in these lineups, a lot can change by Sunday. So I think this is going to be tough. I think when you look at the projection, I think the projection, even though it says he's got six more, or whatever, I think it's about even because Fournette's going to have like 13, and then a tight end is going to get like 5. So I think it's pretty even. But my thing is, if Weston can move Fournette to a back and take one of those bad backs out that's just projected high and throw in a wide receiver at his flex, I think that'll put him over the top. And I think if Cameron can get over chasing these points that Deshaun Watson had those first 2 weeks and he plugs in Alshon Jeffrey, he can counteract Wentz a little bit and maybe steal a touchdown. And that's a way that he might be able to get a win this week. So there's some things that need to be done with these lineups.
Yeah.
Interesting take with Jeffrey, of course, coming back off of injury. And I think this will be one of the most entertaining matchups to watch because both of these teams are really going to get screwed by a loss when they take one. Alright, so let's move on to saving Matt Ryan and no fried rice for you. Matt Ryan versus Kirk Cousins. Cousins is playing a great defense coming off of a terrible week. Matt Ryan's playing Cincy. I'll take Matty Ice. What say you, Sam?
Man. I think I might have to go Matt Ryan here. Rams defense is a lot better. No, you know what? I'm gonna go Cousins. I think Cousins finds a way to rebound after a rough week last week. Kind of comes out with a chip on his shoulder. Um, I think it's close, but I'm gonna give the nod to Cousins.
Okay.
I'm thinking Ryan's gonna have Christian thinks, oh, Ryan had 40 last week. He's gonna score at least 25 or 30 against Cincinnati, and I think he's gonna have one of his mediocre 15 to 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Things I also want to talk about in this lineup. I know you like to just do matchups, but Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley are on this team, on No Fried's team. That is everybody that Matt Ryan's probably going to throw to on Sunday. So I don't like the matchup. If I was him at 11:58 on Sunday, I'd be switching Matt Ryan out for Derek Carr or somebody else. And I think, just like what Sam said, I think Cousins bounces back. I think a lot of people are looking at Minnesota as a bad team now because of the way they played against Buffalo. But I think that they were ready on this short week. I think they were preparing for the Rams. And, Cousins looked like disengaged last week. Cousins didn't seem like himself. And I think he's going to be way more prepared because of the way they played on Sunday. I think Cousins wins that matchup. And then I don't like the Ryan matchup at all with him facing Ridley and Jones.
Yeah, that's certainly interesting, I think, considering the fact that No Fried has such a terrifying team. And if you look at Gordon versus Cook, Cook is coming off of an injury, and I would give the edge to Gordon here, honestly.
at the same time, because he's starting Cousins, okay, if Cook takes away a touchdown from Cousins, or if, Cousins throws a TD to Rudolph, those are things that can help, obviously, Christian's lineup against No Fried. But, like, the Cook, to me, I can't start Cook on the fact that he's on touches. I just don't trust it. It's one of those things, like, if he scores a touchdown, I'm just going to have to let it happen. I'm just like, I'll deal with it. But I can't start Cook and have him get me 3 points. I'm not going to win this matchup this week if Cook gets me 3.
Yeah. Well,
I like Breida. I like Breida, though, over Williams. I think Breida can actually match up with Gordon, and maybe Cook will have a closer matchup to Williams. I think Breida will get at least 10. If he has enough balls to start him and Morris, that might be the best option, honestly, because I would take Morris over the Williams guy. They don't run the ball. I would never have a Green Bay back in my lineup.
It's true. Breida has been low-key one of the best running backs this year in terms of people that no one expected.
He leads the league in rushing, I'm pretty sure.
He does have a lot of yards. I think OBJ, this is the week where OBJ really breaks 15 points against New Orleans.
I think he has a good week. I think he has a real good week. I think he might win his individual matchup against Julio. Julio may not catch a TD, but this would be the week for Julio to catch a TD, going up against Matt Ryan, how that goes. But I would think Beckham would win that individual matchup. And I say Galladay and Williams, those are two of the same type of players, two guys that have had really good weeks the last couple of weeks. I mean, that's a break even right there.
I would personally give the advantage to Galladay playing against the Sean Lee-less Cowboys defense.
Oh, Jeff Heath. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Jeff
Hell yeah.
Jeff Heath is what I call the Zary Max special, where you hit the shit out of some guy who just made a 20-yard first down reception and act like you did something impressive.
I honestly, I like the Calvin Ridley flexing him because obviously you are playing Ryan, but at the same time, I think you're chasing points starting Ridley. I think last week was a good week. He had a good week 2 weeks ago, but I'm not trusting him to get over 10 this week.
I agree. I think it's not going to last, the whole Ridley fad.
But another thing we got to realize, he's got Kelsey. Kelsey's like another wide receiver. I take that advantage way over Rudolph, and it's on Monday night. Last little guy to play, may just finish it off. I'm going No Fried for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think No Fried gets the edge here. What do you think, Sam?
I tend to agree. I mean, obviously I pick Cousins over Ryan. I like Gordon over Cook. Coming off a hamstring injury, that you just can't trust back. Really, any skill position player, I feel like coming off a hamstring.
Don't forget Henry on Christian's bench. Watch out.
Yeah. Kelsey over Rudolph, I agree with. Ridley, T.Y. Hilton.
That's going to be
that's tight. Those are both.
Yeah. They're going to get 5 and 7. It's going to be about even.
I think what's interesting is that he has the Minnesota kicker
against LA
again. The Niners.
Yeah.
Get it? He's going for another donut.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be both these teams have a lot riding on this game tonight, and this matchup might get decided tonight.
To me, the takeaway is what Jackson brought up. All these blockers on No Fried's team, these players that
ruins it.
Yeah, well, they benefit from Matt Ryan, and it sort of makes it where it's like, well, how the hell is Seagouch gonna win? Like, it's not.
See, that's
yeah.
Like, honestly, I don't know how it worked for me, but I had the same kind of mentality, but I was like, I think AB, when I played Spencer, I picked up Roethlisberger, and I was like, well, AB might score 25 or 30, but I'm going to make sure I get mine from Big Ben. But it just ended up where Big Ben threw to everybody else except AB that day. Like, I got lucky, but that's not happening in this matchup. These are the two guys that he's going to throw to.
Yep.
I think the smartest thing Christian could do is move Ryan out of his lineup and plug in a different guy, because I think he's just going to be giving No Fried too many points with, with Ron, with No Fried's wide receiver, like he's playing the matchup. No Fried's playing the matchup to a T. You have to play your matchup, and Christian's just trying to play his best available guys. You got to play your matchup.
I think there's about a 4 to maybe even 3% chance that Seagouch takes out Matt Ryan out of his starting lineup.
If he watches this, he might.
I don't think he'll be swayed by your opinion, Jackson. I'm sorry.
He's going to be upset. He's going to be upset if he watches this.
It's not
all the nice things we said about his team last week, all the nice things we said about it this week.
Believe me, he's rolling the dice with Matt Ryan, probably for the rest of the year.
I can't wait till his name's changed halfway through Sunday when Matty Ice scores like 12 and gives up a bunch to Julio and Ridley. Julio and Ridley.
If Seagouch goes on a losing streak, he'll have to change his name to Saving Derrick Henry, and then in parentheses, from the waiver wire.
I can't wait till he gets matched up against having like someone who plays Lewis, and he starts Henry, and Lewis just shits all over. That's what I'm waiting for. That's just what I'm waiting for.
All right, so let's move on. Mahomes is where the heart is versus Clap for Bacon. Obviously, we spoke about Clap for his team earlier. Personally, for me, this is a clear advantage to Ben. I think that Cooper Kupp, despite playing Minnesota, gets at least 10. Hill and Mahomes are going to hook up. Johnson continues to do well versus a shitty Cowboys team. Howard breaks double digits versus Tampa. And Cobb recovers versus Buffalo. To me, this is going to look like a good week for Ben. What do you think, Sam?
I tend to agree. I mean, Mahomes is going to get his. I don't think he's going to slow down. Kerryon Johnson looked really good last week against the Pats. The Cowboys don't have Sean Lee. That's just going to keep going. Love Tyreek Hill. He's going to get some points. Randall Cobb, great flex option. Keelan Cole, that's not a good receiver one option. This is going to Mahomes here.
I agree. I think that it goes to Mahomes as well. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Clap for Bacon's team anyways, but yeah, I mean, just the Mahomes on Monday night with Hill on my time zones is a big deal to me when people are playing and who has who. I think Kupp gets them off to a good start tonight. I like his backs over Crap for Bacon's backs. I like Mahomes better than Watson. That's his name, Crap for Bacon.
It is now, yeah.
I think Hopkins has an all right week. I think Watson has an all right week, but he's just too good across the board. And I think this is a huge win for Ben. Any wins that Ben can pick up with Bell out of his lineup are huge. So I think the fact that he even has an advantage in this is huge. I wouldn't think that he would have an advantage, and I don't like Cobb and I don't like Robinson, so they both cancel out. Defense and kicker, we never know about those. So yeah, I think Ben definitely gets the advantage.
I like it. And finally,
I can't believe his pitcher is that one with him and Mahomes. Golly, he's such a homer, dude. You should have heard him last week. Did you rewatch it? It's just so funny listening. Yeah, not because I have a picture with him or anything like that. I just, he went to the same college, and it's you sound like such a homer, dude.
When you have 2 good weeks and you change your team name and you're really all in on the concept at that point, I feel like. But let's move on to the final matchup. This is a matchup between 2 guys who really want to beat the crap out of each other. This is Stephen A. Race and Aaron. Frankly, 2 guys that desperately do not want to go 1-3. That is the nightmare for a fantasy football owner who thinks highly of himself. Because let's be honest, if you think highly of yourself in fantasy football, you ain't starting fucking 0-4. You better not be, at least. So both of these guys really need this win. And it might not be the matchup between 2 highly rated teams, but to me it's very compelling because of the fact that both of these teams really need this win badly.
Yeah, I mean, the way I feel about this is these are two teams that took L's, or they have two L's. They've lost two in a row, and these are not bad teams. They're average, okay teams. I think right now with the fact that Spencer doesn't really have some of the pieces that are going to be there in his lineup later in the year, I think that's something to watch, per se. But like the big thing is he going to get down by too much at the first of the year? Is he going to lose too many games at the first of the year where he has no backs? And he's riding these three receivers that two of them don't produce every week. So my thing, I think both these guys are good owners, and they're going to be working their teams all year. But I think, like you said, this is a huge game, because neither of these guys want to go 1-3. They'd much rather be 500 at 2-2. They'd feel a lot better about themselves at this point in the year, being 2-2 than 1-3. So I think it's a big matchup because of that.
Sam, what do you think about this matchup?
I'm looking at the point totals right now. I think on paper it looks pretty even. I mean, Goff and Rivers, I feel like they're going to cancel each other out. They're both capable of really big games. I'm not sure who's got the better matchup here. Maybe Rivers. I think the backs are relatively even. Lindsey's been good when he doesn't get suspended or get kicked out of the game. Um, Hyde had a good week last week against me, unfortunately. Brown, Thielen.
You said that like you lost.
I didn't. Yeah, I was a little salty about it early, but it worked out.
Hyde suddenly looks like a
I'll,
way better option with Mayfield in the backfield.
yeah, I like Spencer's wideouts a little bit better. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna say on the running backs, I mean Lynch. He's not like, I know when you think about Lynch, you think about how he played last year and just his arrogance and stuff. But he's had 10, 12, and 14 in his 3 games this year. He scored a TD in all of them. That's a solid RB too if you're matching with Kamara. I think that I like the Alex Smith's backs better. I think Hyde's had good weeks, but it's because he scored TDs. He's not really. Yeah, he had 98 yards last week against the Jets, but he really hadn't put up that much yardage. And then Philip Lindsay, he's a wild card. He's a share time back, and he has had good weeks. But is that something that we're going to be able to count on? I'll take Aaron's backs, but yeah, definitely Stephen A's wide receivers. He's got a top 3 core with those 3 guys. It's just, can they all perform in the right week?
I agree completely. And when you look at the backs here, I look at Carlos Hyde and I say, all right, this is a guy who's going to get a dozen, and the fact that Baker's back there makes it even better. I look at Lindsey. Not that impressive. But then when you compare him to Chimera, he's really not impressive. Chimera's going to go off. Lynch is going to get at least a dozen. You flip it over to the wideout, suddenly it's the complete opposite. Antonio Brown and Thielen are going to demolish Diggs and Boyd. I think Thielen and
I think
Diggs are
Boyd's a
about
good start, though. I think Boyd is a good start, and I think Diggs is a wild card. Is he going to get 1 or is he going to get 38?
Diggs, yeah, Diggs is far more inconsistent than Thielen, but I don't really like Boyd because A.J. Green got hurt at the end of the game in the second half last week, so I think Boyd's numbers are inflated and he's going to get less than 8 this week.
He had 15 against Baltimore that week before that.
I saw that.
He's had 2 good weeks in a row, is what I will say.
Yeah.
I think there's some things honestly on Smith's team that he needs to change. Like, well, I guess he did put Boyd in there for Aguilar. That was something I was looking earlier at. But I don't like Chris Hogan. I know Chris Hogan had 2 TDs a week, 2 weeks ago. But I would plug Drake in. I know Drake had a terrible week and you're mad at him. But, Drake's projected that 10. I know that they're going to be trying to run the ball, establish a run game, to get the Patriots off the field. I have to start Drake. I mean, and I'm in the category of liking to start 3 backs over 3 wide receivers. And it just would you're not going to beat Spencer and his 3 wide receivers. So why not start another back and beat him somewhere where he can't beat you?
I agree, man. With the fucking New England defense looking terrible, I think you got to put Drake in here. Sam, what would you do here with the flex, man?
I wouldn't leave Hogan in for sure.
Aaron chases
I mean,
points. Like Hogan, it's like, oh, he thinks Brady's going off this week, so Hogan's going to be one of the guys catching those targets. It's like, no, like that's all hype. Like they're going to win, but they're not going to just dismantle and Hogan's going to, because, no. Like start Drake. Like what? I think he did this last week where he started Bortles and, he just does like, what the heck, Aaron? Come on. This is a big win. This is a big week for me. I need you to beat this kid. I need to get this kid as far in the dirt as possible.
Now, both of you, honestly, need Spencer to lose as many games as possible, obviously, because with clap for bacon turning into crap for bacon, he's obviously the only other guy in the division that's a threat. And I think for you two personally, Spencer losing this game is huge because Mark Ingram comes back in week 5. And having Spencer at 1-3 and having to climb out of that hole, against both of you is a big deal. And when I look in this matchup, the things that I take away from it are Aaron wins the running back matchups hard, Spencer wins the receiving matchups hard, and I think other than the fact that it's going to be very important, I would probably give Spencer a slight edge.
Well, the fact too that Rivers is going to be throwing to Allen. Now, Allen has not produced the last 2 weeks, but we talked about, okay, we think Rivers is going to do pretty good or as well as Goff. Well, I'm sure Allen's going to be catching those. I think the main key is who wins the flex position because if he keeps Hogan there, he automatically loses it. But if he puts Drake in there, he has an opportunity to get some points that he didn't think he was going to have this week somewhere, and it's going to counteract the Keenan Allen and taking points away from Rivers.
In my head, there's probably like a 20% chance that Hogan randomly gets 2 touchdowns this week because I do think the Patriots are going to look really good. I don't think the Patriots are going to continue to struggle. I think they're going to recover in a big way.
Well, then put Hogan at where Boyd is. If that's Aaron and he feels that strongly about Hogan, take Boyd out of or take Diggs out of your lineup and put Drake down there at the bottom. Like, I don't get why. That's something I don't understand about y'all. Like a running back can touch the ball on any play. A wide receiver can only touch the ball when it's a passing down, and he has to fight 4 or 5 other guys for the target. So, like, why would you not start a running back at your flex? Like, I'm asking a legitimate question to both of y'all.
Well, I think it's depth a lot of the times. Frankly, for me personally, a lot of the times I feel like, well, even my running back number 2 is barely worth being a running back number 2. I don't even feel like I have a third guy to start. And like last week I did with Bernard, but they were all sort of like the Bernard and Coleman were both sort of mid-tier in my mind. What do you
if you're getting
Sam?
points out of your flex, then it doesn't matter, obviously. But yeah, I just wondered. I noticed a lot of people in this league have wide receivers at their flex. And I made sure in my draft, like that was a big deal of drafting running backs. Like that was a big key for me this year, was to take as many backs away from people as possible.
What do you think, Sam, as far as starting running back in the flex?
I kind of agree with what you're saying. I think if you've got 3 backs worth playing, then yeah. But I think you've got to do a really good job and be consciously thinking about that in your draft when you're going to try and go get 3 good backs. I don't like my 3 good. I don't think I have 3 good backs this week, but I think if you got 3 good backs, play them. And in Aaron's case, he's got Lynch and Kamara, who are 2 pretty solid backs. And Drake's been decent. So yeah, I guess except for last week, but I don't know. I think like what Wiley's saying, it comes down to depth. And if you got a guy for there, great. But it's a lot easier to find a third good wide receiver than a third good running back.
And it sucks for Aaron that Peterson's on the bench. So with that being said, Sam, I want to hear you give the first take here. Spencer or Aaron, who are you giving the edge to?
I'm going to go Spence. I think the receivers are going to give him the edge here.
Okay, Jackson?
I think Spencer's going to be basically down 2 or 3 or dead even with him going into the Monday night game. That's what I think. Pair these matchups, but a lot of it has to do with times and stuff like that. And I think he's going to be losing by 4 or 5, maybe at the most 10 Monday night. And I think Lindsey's going to get him the points that he needs.
To me, this is going to be one of the closest matchups and one of the most entertaining as far as implications and impact on the league goes. But I honestly think I'm going to have to edge Aaron here in a very close game. I think Chimera is going to pop off in his last game before Ingram comes back, and I think Aaron will barely edge Spencer.
I think Aaron needs to change his team name. I don't like it.
Well, surely next week it'll be something completely different, depending on whether he wins or loses.
I haven't liked his name all year. The waiver wire wonder took offense to that. The Alex Smith, like it'd be one thing if you had him on your team, but you don't even have him on your team. So I don't know. I wish it was like what's that? I wish it was Will Kane. So it was like Stephen A. Race versus Will Kane.
Will Kane.
Or Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman versus Stephen A. Race.
Max Kill, oh my god. Oy vey. And on that note, we will end the TWIF episode. This was, in my opinion, one of the best and most in-depth episodes we've ever done. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.